Welcome to PAF, short for Process Analytics Factory. I'm Swati, and I'm here to present to you about PAFnow, a true game-changer technology. PAFnow has been designed to become the most innovative and accessible process intelligence tool to hit the market. Let's have a quick look into the key highlights of this presentation. During the course of this presentation, we'll look for answers to questions like, what's the core idea behind process mining and why is it so relevant right now? How did we develop PAFnow as a process mining tool and how does it feel? Thirdly, how does our partner ecosystem look like and how do we implement solutions with their cooperation? Finally, a few ideas on what next steps might look like for you if you like this one. So, let's get started. The importance of our topic and also the reason why we're experiencing such a momentum can be very well attached to the following statement. Successful companies are a sum of excellent processes. Of course, this varies from company to company. There are sometimes financial processes, sometimes sales processes, sometimes logistics, or elsewhere production. But it's always a question of where we can avoid manual efforts and make our daily work more valuable. Which work steps can we automate using RPA? Where can we standardize more in order to make complexity manageable? What processes should we implement while introducing new IT systems? And I'm sure you'll spontaneously think of a whole host of other typical questions in this context. But in short, how can we improve our processes? In order to answer these questions, we used a very obvious methodology. We interviewed these employees. So we did workshops, we conducted interviews, traveled to branches in national companies, and started painting and documenting. At times of digitization, it's quite an analog approach, and it'll be obvious to you that this analog approach is neither complete nor can it be kept up to date continuously. So, why don't we take advantage of this digitization and use the increasing data diversity to master this task smarter? Let's imagine, what would it be like if we had an emerging process that would inform us at the touch of a button very precisely and at any point of time about the performance and problems of our processes? At its core, this digital process is exactly what we understand by process mining. It's like the MRI for your business process. However, this analogy, which is so easy to understand, has a few decisive weaknesses for us. Like an MRI, you need very expensive equipment such as hardware, software, licenses in order to perform traditional process mining. You needed specialists in order to mine the data. At the end, you're usually smarter afterwards, but not healthier yet. And it's precisely these weaknesses that has motivated us to no longer see process mining as a complex, high-priced enterprise solution, but as an ability that goes without saying at every modern digital workplace. After all, every employee is a part of one or more business processes, and he or she should be ideally able to contribute to making them better. At its core, we are therefore concerned with the democratization of process mining. With this in mind, we've oriented the development of PAFnow to technologies that can already be found at many workplaces today. And it's nothing but Microsoft Office 365, and in particular, Microsoft Power BI. We had one straight motivation. Let's simply use what already exists and enrich this platform with the desired capabilities. So, let's take a look at how we implemented this with PAFnow, our process mining application based on Power BI. For this, the following components are addressed, which you will soon see in the demo. We have predefined PAFnow reports and dashboards for the analysis of process data. PAFnow custom visuals developed specifically for process mining, which helps you to adequately present and interpret the data and also give recommendations for action. And finally, the PAFnow data processing for SQL Server. It takes the data processing to a very whole new level. The only thing you need to start with PAFnow is an event log in CSV format. This is automatically imported into your SQL database with the help of our PAFnow SSIS package, and it's prepared there for the subsequent analysis. Okay, so that's enough theory. Let's now dive into PAFnow and see how it can be used to perform process mining. We're right now in PowerBI.com, the cloud version of Power BI. It's also called a Power BI service. It has workspaces within which you can store reports and dashboards. We now have opened a PAFnow report. What you see first in PAFnow is the Discovery tab. It's our central analysis point that provides all the necessary components to give you complete transparency about your process, to understand it and to analyze it. Any business process can be examined with PAFnow. What you're currently looking at is a purchasing process based on raw data from an SAP ERP system. With the help of Process Explorer, which is our custom visual, your business process is automatically visualized so that you can exactly see how the process in your company really branched out in reality. So let's have a look at the PAFnow Process Explorer. These are the start and the end points with these activities put in the little boxes, and these are connected by so-called paths which provide us with additional information. They tell us about the number of cases that have gone through this path and also the average duration that it takes between every process step. Let's take an example. We see that it takes 7 days and 6 hours to go from post-GR to post-invoice, whereas just 7 hours and 7 minutes to go from approved PO level 1 to post-GR. This is indicated by the darker red in color of the path being highlighted. On the other hand, the path gets more thicker with the increase in the number of cases that passes through them. So, in addition to that, when you hover over, the tooltip gives you additional information such as min, max, median, and standard deviation of the duration. The PAFnow Process Explorer also gives possibilities to examine your process more closely using the filter options. For example, I'd want to look at cases only which has gone through the create PO step by bypassing the change PO step. So in reality, I would want to just exclude them. So I can do this by using the exclude option. In this way, I see only cases that have gone through the create PO step. And on to my left, I see the filters that I've applied in the breadcrumb navigation filter. Let me now clear this filter. We can have a greater control over the process visualization using the navigation bar onto my right. For example, I can filter the entire process for a specific time period, say just 1 or 2 months. And this is possible using our time filter. On the other hand, I can also look at the process based on the variance. I can select for the most frequent variant or the second most frequent variant or just the top 3 variants. What we see here right now is the top 3 variants which already cover around 60% of my processes. And when I clear all the filters, what I see is a very branched out process. And this is how the process would have occurred in reality, which is a typical spaghetti picture. Moving on, if you need more information and want to exactly see which business transactions are affected by a particular pattern in the process, you can use the case overview. This gives you the list of all cases with the respective invoice IDs, purchase requisition IDs, the purchase order IDs, and so on. So this gives a complete detailed information on a case level. On the navigation bar to the right, we already see the average lead time for the entire process as a whole, which is around 30.65 days. But if I would want to calculate the average lead time for a particular process step to another particular process step, I can use the lead time calculator. In this case, I'd want to see what's the average lead time from post invoice to pay invoice. I see that it takes around 12 days and 22 hours to complete this process. It's usually more interesting to actually compare the process based on different process characteristics. And for this, we can use the benchmarking tab. With the help of PAFnow attribute filter, you can actually decide based on which attributes you would like to compare the processes with each other. In this example, we would like to compare the vendors. Here, I'm comparing vendor number 10 with vendor number 63. At the very first glance, you can obviously see that vendor number 63 has a very complex and a branched out process, which in turn gives me the reason for its much higher lead time, which is 57 days in comparison to vendor number 10, who has just 12.49 days. In the same way, it's also possible to compare processes based on material groups, plant groups, procurement groups, and also customer groups. Now that we have created an initial transparency, we're now immersing ourselves a little deeper. PAFnow report provides you with evaluations on specific performance topics of our process, which is the variance, loops, starting points, process steps, and so on. So let's take a look at the process variance. In order to evaluate the performance of a process at one glance, we've developed the Pareto custom visual. According to the Pareto principle, at least 80% of all business transactions should be covered by a maximum of 20% of the process variance, so that the process can be actually classified as a good one. In our example, we see that 80.2% of our process is covered by just 14.7% of our variance, which is actually a good indication. So let's now take a closer look at the evaluation of variance. On the top right of my screen, I see the percentage variance grouped by process steps per case. I can see that around 70% of my process fall between 6 and 15 process steps, but their duration actually varies greatly. On the other hand, let's move to the next visual, which is the percentage cases grouped by lead time. We see that almost 30% of our cases actually have a lead time more than 30 days. What could be the reason for this? Instead of making decisions based on gut feeling or guess, we actually developed another custom visual, which is the root cause analyzer. This is an AI-supported correlation analysis which runs in the background. It tells you the attributes that are responsible for these long-running cases. So I would select this bar and it gives me the list of all attributes that are responsible for the long-running cases. Let's have a closer look. The ones in the green, which is material group 280491, plant 21, procurement group J2X, U1A, and so on, are the ones that seem to be responsible for the long-running cases. Moving on to the next topic, almost all of our customers and partners we are currently talking to are involved in automation. They have questions like which manual work steps can be omitted, which ones can be taken over by RPA, and so on. So it would be helpful if we could support these projects with our intelligence and identify suitable process steps for automation. And this is exactly what we do with our automation rate. So, while extracting data from ERP systems, we actually determine which steps were performed by an employee and which ones by a system or a robot. From this, we can actually determine the degree of automation for the entire process or individual process steps. As you can see here, a majority of post-invoices steps, which is around 23.63%, is automated. But the overall automation rate is just 2.8%. The fact that there's only one major step that is being automated is the reason why we have such a low automation rate. But this is already an indication that there is plenty of scope for the use of RPA. This is also one of the reasons why process mining is so useful as an upstream discipline for an RPA POC. Because I can already then concentrate on specific process steps, which in this case would be more like a post-invoice step, in order to try out RPA for this particular step and see what greatest benefits that I could reap out of it. On the other hand, I also have the opportunity to keep an eye on the effects of automation on the overall throughput time of my process. Now that we have seen automation rate, sometimes it also gives us a lot of insights into the process health when we visualize its deviation from the originally defined target model. To keep an eye on this conformity, we have something called a conformance check. With PAFnow, you're able to display your BPMN target model created in Visio. You can create a link to your data and compare it with your actual process. This means that your target and actual words are actually able to interact with each other, and you can directly see how compliant your process is. So let's look at the Visio model. We see that these have different colors for various activities. We see that the ones in red show that there are very less number or less percentage of cases that have gone through this particular step. We see that there's only 10% of cases that have gone through the create PR step. On the other hand, we have the approve PO levels 2 and 3, which have less than 60% of cases going through them, which is why they're orange. And the rest of them are green, which conform to the fact that almost 100% of the cases go through these process steps. Even if your defined target model often looks straightforward in company planning, in reality, it turns out very differently. So according to the should be model, we expect that the post invoice should come right after the post GR step. But we can now check what actually happened in reality. In reality, we see that post-GR step is then subsequently branched out into whole new 6 different steps. This is how the process is actually branched in reality. With the help of PAFnow Even Filter, which is another custom visual, you can examine the order of your business process and evaluate where the compliance problems occurred. For example, you can investigate if there were cases where you had an invoice posted before the goods received, which is post invoice directly followed by post goods received. And now I see the list of all cases that have actually had this scenario. So when I hover over this, I see that there are around 40 cases where my post invoice comes before my post GR with an average duration of 4 days and 17 hours. This, in a business sense, can actually translate into huge monetary losses based on the volume of purchasing. We now got a possibility to visualize the process with the process graph. Another very exciting perspective is to see the associated document flow that took place in the context of a process. For this, let's move on to the document flow. When we click at a particular purchase order ID, say 450-114-4320, we see that this purchase order ID has 8 cases in the actual process. But this makes it difficult for us to track which purchase order ID belongs to which invoice or which invoice item. For this, I can switch back to my document flow and I see exactly which PO belongs to which invoice and subsequently which invoice. We've now gained transparency over our business process, and we've also seen how to get recommendations for action from the system. It'd be nice if the application could inform me proactively about changes and deviations. And this is exactly where the additional power of Power BI comes into play. Because of our integration into this technology, in addition to special PAFnow process mining capabilities, we also have all other BI capabilities from Microsoft at our disposal. So let's get back to variance. I select my cases with 6 to 15 process steps. I see that the lead time right now is 27.83 days. And I want to be sure that it does not cross 30 days. So I'd like to have this on my radar. To do so, I can actually pin this visual onto my dashboard. Right now, let's create a new dashboard. Let's call it PAFnow Monitor. We now have created a new dashboard called PAFnow Monitor with our visual pinned onto our dashboard. Right now, I don't want to look at this measure on a daily basis, but I would want to be informed by the system itself if a problem occurs. And this is possible with a so-called alerting function. We go to the Manage Alerts and set an alert rule. So my alert rule is that I'd want to be given an alert if my lead time goes over 30 days. And I save it and close it. One of the other powerful features is collaboration. I can actually communicate with my colleagues about certain anomalies and irregularities about the process within the PAFnow environment. To do so, I can add a comment to every visual that I pin onto my dashboard. For this, I would write a comment to my colleague asking the reason as to why the lead time has increased. In this way, we're able to establish efficient collaboration within the PAFnow environment. Our aim is not only to make you smarter and provide you with more reports and dashboards, but also to make your processes really better. So the question arises as to what we could do in order to operationally achieve this. Analysis and nice graphics alone is not sufficient. So let's call up our warning rule again for this. We're using Microsoft Flow in order to trigger actions. With Flow, Microsoft offers the workflow platform on which I can create individual workflows as intuitively as Power BI. In this case, I'll briefly outline how this works. Now, we have an alert ID that we just created, which is the average lead time days that I would want to track. And the next step is to connect to the right source that I would want to inject my results into. This is the list of connectors that I have. I can connect to databases. I can connect to databases like SQL Server, Oracle Database, PostgreSQL, Teradata, Azure Data Lake, and so on. I can also connect to communication teams such as Twitter, Teams, and so on. So these host of connectors are the ones that enable us to drive process mining results into the organizational pipeline to make your processes better. Okay, let's move back to the report. I'd like to highlight few highly beneficial functionalities that this can offer you. Let's get back to the report that we were working on. You also have the edit report functionality, which allows you to create and edit visualizations and also a complete access to your direct central data model. It gives you all the fields that are present in your actual PAFnow data model. Secondly, there are employees who feel comfortable using Excel. For them, you can use the Analyze in Excel functionality, which is present here. I've already downloaded one for the demonstration. As you can see here, you have the pivot table functionality as well as a complete provision of your data model directly again linked to your Power BI service. I've just created a quick pivot table with the distribution of cases across vendors and a bar chart to represent the same. This allows users to comfortably use Excel and continue exploring process mining data models within the Excel environment. Moving on, you also have the Embed in Sharepoint online feature. This helps you to share the PAFnow generated realizations to your team over SharePoint and to make the cooperation possible. You also have the export to PowerPoint functionality. It allows you to export to PowerPoint, and this helps me saving presentation building process. And within PAFnow, you're now able to turn your Office 365 workstation into an efficiency workshop and become N times better. And another feature is, let's get back to the dashboard. We have a complete setup dashboard, which is a PAFnow dashboard with all our visualizations, important visualizations pinned here. What you see here is the web view. You can also switch this to the phone view and you can select the most relevant tiles you'd want to frequently monitor. And this becomes available to you right away into your mobile phones through the Power BI app. Last but not the least, there's a functionality called the usage metrics. It's a brief report on the dashboard and report usage. It shows me how many views I had per day, which of my colleagues had viewed them, and so on. So, this is the demo of PAFnow. Let's move back to the presentation. As you have seen, PAFnow has the power to display unexpected findings in a clear and easy to grasp manner. It excels in providing recommended actions based on prior outcomes. And so far, this has been the promise of process mining. But PAFnow goes one step beyond and interlocking with BI and RPA. Through alerts and interactive dashboard actions, organizations can inject process mining and analytics into their daily operations in order to increase productivity and efficiency. Many businesses use data to support their decisions instead of drive their actions, but with PAFnow you can do both. And this is exactly the reason why we speak of artificial process intelligence in our holistic approach. Depending on your IT strategy, you can run different deployment scenarios. We generally use Power BI Desktop for proof of concepts in order to avoid building any special infrastructure. You can also use Power BI Report Server for internal report distributions when you don't want to go to the cloud. Whereas you have the Power BI.com as a cloud service version. And lastly, you have the possibility of mobile access via a very attractively designed Power BI app. That is, all content is immediately available for mobile use. To really make business processes better with artificial process intelligence is our claim and our motivation. We at PAF concentrate on the development of this technology. We work together with a constantly growing network of partners to implement this and to offer not only the pure technical implementation, but also the professional expertise around special processes. As you can see, these are very different partners, sometimes more from a technical point of view and others from a data analysis perspective. For example, we have Redland partner that uses PAFnow to design efficient new service processes and products as a part of its digital agenda. Whereas Plutz and Zeller have integrated PAFnow into their BPM application Symbio. The special technical expertise of partners and PAF is then blended together more and more in so-called content packs. The idea here is to perform data processing as well as certain analysis for special processes in the form of reports and dashboards. In this way, projects can be significantly accelerated and carried out more cost-effectively. We from PAF offer special content packs for classic financial processes like order to cash and purchase to pay based on SAP. But more and more ideas are coming from our partner network. In the area of IT service management, for example, what our partner Metricus is doing is very exciting. They analyze how well the support processes mapped using ServiceNow, Shovel, or Remedy work. If you're interested in making your processes better, then we would be happy to help you with this. We're firmly convinced that PAFnow is the right tool for us because artificial process intelligence not only makes you smarter but also helps run operational processes better. It integrates seamlessly into the digital workplace and the analytical platform. We have a very complete partner network and interesting project accelerators to drive the content. We can offer different operating models depending on cloud affinity. On the lines of innovation, we've just started the 5th federal funded research project. So we're involved in very innovative projects in the areas of AI, RPA, Industry 4.0, and blockchain. We're very happy to let our PAF network participate in these research projects and work in partnership with us even in very new areas. Finally, we believe that in order to make process mining accessible to everyone, you need the right price and the licensing model. This is the kind of model we have implemented. So, please feel free to contact PAF for any further questions. Let us know if you want to see your data in PAFnow. We can do that by arranging a demo application or an in-depth individual web session. We'd love to make you excited about PAFnow. Hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thanks for joining and have a nice day.